Battle Through the Heavens God, The Flame Emperor Chapter 216, Turn Defeat into Victory. Damn boy! Sunai also shouted angrily, and while busy dealing with the terrifying flames in his body, he had to use his strength to deal with Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan's huge soul power has long known that Sunai is arrogant, and it is also calculated that when the strange fire enters the body, it will have a certain impact on Sunai, but he did not expect that Xiaoyan still underestimated the power of these 23 heavenly fires. However, Xiaoyan didn't have time to be overjoyed. The ancient ruler in his hand attacked Sunai with even greater flame power. Although the previous attack had achieved some remarkable results, Xiaoyan did not dare to underestimate the enemy. After all, this Sunai had the strength of the peak 4-star Dode. Although he had now broken through to the initial 4-star Dode, he could not take it lightly. What's more, this Sunai is only the 11th ranked powerhouse, and there are 9 powerhouses ahead of him, so it is undoubtedly the most stupid to reveal too much power at this time. So Xiaoyan is also preparing to surprise him. Move to win. After all, you can hide your strength in the final decisive battle to be unexpected. Above the huge ancient ruler, colorful flames formed a huge fire dragon around the ancient ruler, and roared away at Sunai with its ferocious mouth open. Double dragons take water. Sunai also shouted loudly, and then the huge fighting energy gathered on the 2 giant axes, facing Xiaoyan's attack head-on. Double dragons take water is a trick that gathers the power in the body on the giant axe to form 2 forces with completely different properties, and then uses the 2 explosive forces with completely different properties to suppress the opponent. Boom boom boom. Xiaoyan's eternal fire dragon's ferocious giant mouth and Sunai's round giant axe collided fiercely, sending out a terrifying flame storm. The next moment, the attack was over, and the 2 of them flew out behind them in unison. The most embarrassing thing is to count Sunai. Although he is a powerhouse in the peak stage of the 4-star Dode, but when he first fought, the flames of 23 colors passed from Xiaoyan's ancient ruler. It caused a lot of obstruction to his body, so that Sunai did not dare to go all out to deal with Xiaoyan. After all, the power of these 23 colors should not be underestimated too. Sunai took dozens of steps back to stabilize his body, and then the double giant axe was directly inserted into the ground. At this time, his breath soared, obviously preparing to launch a powerful attack. On the other side, Xiaoyan also took a few steps back to stabilize his figure, and the palm of his hand holding the eternal fire ancient ruler couldn't help but feel a slight tremor, which was obviously the aftermath of the fight with Sunai just now. This Sunai really deserves to be a powerhouse in the peak stage of the 4-star Dode. Even if he is penetrated by my heavenly fire, he can still use such terrifying power to fight back. Xiaoyan also muttered to himself, then stared at Sunai. On his body, watching the 23 color flames gradually condense together, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It's almost. After speaking, the aura all over his body soared, and he was raised to the level of the initial stage of the 4-star Dode. The eternal fire ancient ruler in his hand is also surrounded by milky white flames. Obviously a terrifying offensive is brewing. What is Xiaoyan laughing at? Sunai was also extremely puzzled, and then he didn't care why Xiaoyan laughed, and gradually compressed the flames that were running around in his body to one place, trying to catch them all in one go. At this time, Sunai's body was extremely spectacular. Flames of various colors continued to emerge from his arms, chest, and thighs. If you counted them carefully, you would find that there were as many as 23 colors. Sunai also intends to condense and compress all these flames into one place and then wipe out the others. After all, these flames are violent by nature, and there is no room for sand in their eyes. Compressed in the same place, the resistance between the flames is also easy for Sunai to wipe out. Ho. Many beads of sweat appeared on Sunai's forehead. Obviously, it was extremely difficult and laborious to compress these flames to one place, but fortunately they succeeded. At this time, Sunai's body has returned to normal skin color, only the thighs have some gorgeous colors. The next step is to catch all the flames. The power of these flames is not bad, but it's a pity that they met me, Sunai murmured, and when he was about to use his strength to destroy the flames in his body, Xiaoyan moved. At the moment when Sunai was performing the exercises, Xiaoyan was not idle either. He first closed his eyes and rested his mind, mobilizing his qi to gather on the ancient ruler of eternal fire, and then the next moment, he suddenly opened his eyes and faced the place where Sunai was. Location omitted? The ancient ruler in his hand not only had a dazzling light at this time, but also had an extremely huge aura of destruction. The first level of the 7-level breaking sky ruler. Silence. The sound of coercion came, and then 100 Zhong-sized flame energy slashed down towards Sunai viciously. Silence. Seeing this, Sunai also knew that this was Xiaoyan's plan. After all, this was the infernal corpse forest in the trials, and countless people were jealous of the points in their hands. The longer the battle, the less safe it would be. However, although Xiaoyan's attack was extremely tyrannical, it was a bit of a fuss for Sunai in the peak stage of the 4-star Dode. After all, Sunai also found that Xiaoyan's body was gradually weakening, and the only one who won this battle was himself. Then Sunai separate a force to compress the 23 kinds of flames in his body, and then suddenly picked up the giant axe inserted into the ground with both hands and put his hands together, and immediately the two giant axe merged into one. The energy shadow of a huge axe with a size of 100 meters also met Xiaoyan's attack viciously. Boom boom boom. The clash of two terrifying forces in the sky immediately attracted the attention of countless low-level monsters and ghosts in the surrounding mountains and forests, and then they also flew away as if fleeing for their lives, because the place where the two attacked, a giant tornado of thousands of meters was also slowly forming, and that Xiaoyan and Sunai were also in a stalemate one by one in the giant tornado. Damn boy, today will be your memorial day. Go to hell. Sunai also said with a grim smile, and then an even larger force came from within the body, and then passed through the giant axe in his hand and attacked Xiaoyan. At this time, Xiaoyan spent nearly 1/2 of his vindictive energy because of the 7th layer breaking sky ruler, so when he saw that Sunai thought he had such terrifying power, he couldn't help but frown slightly. Just as Sunai's attack was about to touch Xiaoyan, Xiaoyan laughed loudly and said, "It's almost time. The lotus of annihilation, if it doesn't explode at this time, when will it be?" As Xiaoyan's laughter fell, a terrifying energy exploded instantly at the place where the 23 kinds of flames that were compressed to the naked eye were compressed by Sunai's thigh. Sunai, who had won the fight in his hand, felt a slight chill down his spine when he heard the words, and a smell of death permeated. Chapter 217, Sunai, can't afford to fail. Just when Sunai was triumphantly preparing to strike Xiaoyan to death, with Xiaoyan's shout, Sunai also noticed that the 23 kinds of flames that had been compressed in one place in his thigh were suddenly fused together. And then an extremely terrifying energy also made Sunai too late to prepare, and it exploded. Sunai didn't have time to think too much about why these 23 extremely violent flame powers could offset this resistance in an instant, and immediately mobilized all the doqi against his thighs, and such terrifying power erupted and circled around. It is not enough to deal with the strength of the peak 4-star Dode powerhouse. Bang bang bang. The terrifying explosion also exploded in an instant, and then the place where Sunai was also shrouded in layers of smoke, and the scorching temperature in the smoke also caused both Yuera and Mu Feng to change color slightly. Go to hell with resentment. Xiaoyan also snorted coldly, and then the huge soul force formed a huge invisible attack to face Sunai. Although the power of the fusion of the 23 types of flames cannot be underestimated, this Sunai is a peak stage 4-star Dode. Xiaoyan had to be careful, and then a terrifying attack was instantly directed at the center of the explosion. Sunai, who was struggling to resist the power of the flames, went away. Huangqin's anger. A terrifying attack also came to Sunai in an instant, and then hit Sunai's soul heavily. Although Sunai was surrounded by a lot of smoke at the center of the explosion, this did not affect Xiaoyan's attack at all. After all, Xiaoyan, with his powerful soul power, already knew the exact location of Sunai in the smoke, so he also accurately hit Sunai. At the center of the flame explosion, Sunai was concentrating on resisting the terrifying force above his thigh. Since it was the force that exploded from inside his thigh, Sunai had a lot of possibilities to save his leg with his powerful strength. It is also impossible to care about Xiaoyan. At this moment, an invisible attack silently attacked the depths of Sunai's soul, and then Sunai's body stagnated for a moment, as if he had suffered heavy damage. The moment Sunai paused, the terrifying flame energy also instantly destroyed Sunai's body with an unstoppable force. When Sunai came back to his senses, he roared, Boom boom boom. The explosion lasted for a few quarters of an hour and then slowly disappeared, revealing a vague figure. Yura and Mu Feng also felt a touch of familiarity from the vague figure. It was Sunai. But the latter is quite embarrassed now. There are wounds of different degrees all over the body, and blood is slowly flowing out, and then the most obvious purpose is the blood on the hands. Obviously, it is quite difficult to deal with the terrifying flame. Slowly looking down from Sunai, he was surprised to find that Sunai was actually standing on one foot on his left. Taking a closer look, he suddenly found that Sunai's other right foot was gone. It's just that drop by drop of blood keeps dripping from the wound. The breath all over the body is also sluggish. Where is the aura of the powerhouse in the peak stage of the 4-star Dode? The terrifying explosion on the thigh was accompanied by the flames everywhere, and that Sunai was also staring at Xiaoyan with a ferocious expression, and muttered to himself as if roaring out, "Little bastard, today's fight I will remember this and I will kill you, I promise Sunai is not human." Haha, then it depends on whether you have this ability. Xiaoyan also snorted coldly. Some medicinal pills appeared in his hand, and then he devoured them directly into his stomach, and then looked carefully. The previous 23 different flame powers were obviously deliberately done by Xiaoyan himself. On the one hand, they put pressure on Sunai, and on the other hand, they also laid the groundwork for the fusion and explosion in Sunai. These are not to say that Xiaoyan is afraid of this Sunai, because Xiaoyan also noticed that some people stronger than this Sunai are coming towards them. The words of those people. It is only possible that it is a strong player in the points-grabbing competition ranked in front of Xiaoyan, so it is not good to expose too many trump cards, so this is the reason for Xiaoyan's play. But what Xiaoyan didn't expect was that Sunai didn't get rid of these flames in the first place. At first, Xiaoyan's purpose was just to distract Sunai. How could he think that Sunai actually wanted to condense and compress these flames into together, and then refining and swallowing become your own power? This is really bold. However, Sunai still miscalculated. In fact, the violent power between the 23 kinds of flames disappeared without a trace in Xiaoyan's body for the first time. Huge destructive power? Then, with Sunai's huge strength in the peak stage of the 4-star Dode, the explosive power of these 23 flame fusions is not an unsolvable problem, but when Xiaoyan was concentrating on dealing with the destructive power of flames, Huangqin's anger also attacked, and the short-term stagnation cost Sunai's life. However, this Sunai is also a decisive person who is decisive when he is decisive. When Huangqin's anger caused the insufficient supply of vindictive energy in his body and stagnated for a moment, the destructive power of the flame had spread to the entire right leg, and it was immediately a huge axe. Cut off his right leg directly to stop the spread of this destructive power. This is the current scene. I have to say that Xiaoyan also admires this decisive force very much, because it will hurt his own body. If there is no way, he would not be willing to do this. However, what Sunai did was the most correct approach, because it contained the fusion power of 23 terrifying flames, and the power of destruction that exploded was extremely terrifying. If Sunai did not cut off his right leg decisively, then once the power of destruction spreads to the whole body, so with the power of the flame, there is no need to attack at all, and this Sunai can be directly consumed to death. After thinking for a while, Xiaoyan's vindictive energy also recovered, and then he slowly walked towards Sunai. At this time, because Sunai cut off his right leg, although it prevented the spread of the power of destruction, it also hurt the source, and his strength actually dropped to the middle stage of the 4-star Dode. But even if it wasn't like this, Xiaoyan still had the confidence to kill this Sunai. After all, Sunai's strength was greatly reduced after the explosion of flames. At this time, he was already at the end of the game. It seems that I still underestimate your strength. The strength of the peak of the 3-star Dode has swallowed the points of the remaining ash, and there are indeed 2 scumbags. Sunai said weakly. The hideous one just now had already disappeared without a shadow traces. Some are just extremely calm now. However, you underestimate Sunai too. In the peak stage of the 4-star Dode, Sunai, the cracking mountain axe, is the 11th. I can't lose to a kid in the initial stage of the 4-star Dode. Impossible. The crack mountain family does not tolerate waste. Sunai roared as if crazy, and then a terrifying wave spread out. No, run. Xiaoyan also shouted loudly. Then before he had time to think about it, he grabbed Mu Feng and Yura with his left and right hands, and quickly fled from here. Sunai dragged his extremely embarrassed body, laughing wildly. The giant axe in his hand also exploded, and a terrifying storm that was enough to destroy the powerhouses in the peak stage of the 4-star Dodi also swept in forward. Chapter 218, Escape and head towards the 3rd floor of the Infernal Core. This aura. It's Sunai. I didn't expect that Xiaoyan could force Sunai to display such an offensive. Qiu Huaniao also looked at the place where the explosion occurred, and then said softly, "Brother Qiu, what did Sunai cast?" said a young man beside Qiu Huaniao. Sunai is showing his origin skills. The power of the origin of the axe of splitting mountains. The giant axe used by Sunai is called the Split Mountain Axe. It can be divided into 2 parts when attacking, but the real power lies in the Split Mountain Axe. Sunai is the proud son of the Split Mountain family. Axe, its status in the family is definitely not low. It is said that this mountain-splitting axe is the treasure of the town clan in their Split Mountain family. Although the mountain-splitting axe is only listed among the spiritual tools, its power is no trivial matter. The mountain-splitting axe can continuously devour the blood power of the enemy, so as to absorb and transform it into an extremely terrifying force stored in the mountain-splitting axe. Once Sunai is defeated, this terrifying power will be released. This force is quite difficult even for me to deal with. Qiu Huaniao said solemnly. That Xiaoyan, who is at the peak of the 3-star Dode, can force Sunai to use this last resort, which is enough to show how unusual this kid is. But no matter how he jumps, he's always just a clown. In the face of a strong man like you, Brother Qiu, it's only the end of the game. The people around Qiu Huantiao also said. Hopefully. Qiu Huaniao also smiled slightly, and then regardless of the words of the people around him, his eyes went straight into the explosion site. According to Qiu Huaniao's perception, Sunai was already at the end of his force at this time, but for some reason, some faint breaths were escaping from the center of the explosion. After Sunai exerted the power in the mountain-splitting axe, the monstrous explosion burst out in an instant. Compared with the explosion produced by the fusion of the 23 kinds of flames, it was not weak at all. As Sunai finished his last offensive, his vindictive energy also fell into a state of exhaustion. Terrifying fluctuations spread, and then the token on his body was instantly shattered, and Sunai's body also disappeared in the corpse forest. The points on his token also instantly turned into a ray of light that was invisible to the naked eye and came to Xiaoyan's token. At this time, Xiaoyan also waved his hand, and then these points were turned into Yura and Mu Feng. The points and rankings of the two are also skyrocketing. At this time, Sunai, who was ranked 11th, also officially announced his departure from the competition. Xiaoyan also discovered the horror of this power when Sunai's mountain-splitting axe had just used the terrifying source power, and then pulled Yura and Mu Feng away from the scene without looking back. With his huge and outstanding soul power, Xiaoyan is also very sensitive to danger. Then Xiaoyan discovered this scene when Sunai was just laughing wildly. It's dangerous. Mu Feng was also at the scene of escaping, and then looked at the shocking explosive force and said, there was some shock in his voice. On the one hand, the shock is that you are already at the end of a strong arrow, but you can still burst out so terrifying. The power of the 11th is indeed well deserved. On the other hand, this Xiaoyan escaped with them before the explosion started. Xiaoyan. These points are too important, and you have won this Sunai from beginning to end. We are just helpers. We can't stand such a big gift. You should take it back. Yura said softly, and then picked up her jade hand. Token, actually want to assign the points on the token to Xiaoyan. Yes, you can take it back. Mu Feng also smiled quietly, and then did the same thing as Yura. No need, just accept it. If you didn't protect me and let me break through the 4-star Dode, these points would not have been so easy to get. Xiaoyan waved his hand and refused. That's good, there is still some time anyway. You have the final say on where to go, and you will get all the points in the future. Mu Feng also laughed loudly. A conspicuous light word also appeared in front of everyone. At this time, Yura's points have reached 18,000, and her ranking has been raised to 44, while Mu Feng's has reached 19,000, and her ranking has been raised to 33. Where are we going next? Yura bit her lip slightly, and apparently discovered a few terrifying forces, all of which were heading towards their previous battlefield at the same time. Why don't we go to the third floor of the infernal corpse forest? To avoid the limelight for a while. There are still 15 days before the end. Xiaoyan also moved his eyes slightly, and then looked at the distant sky. Xiaoyan also discovered that those rather terrifying forces were coming towards their previous positions. Although these people were stronger than Sunai, Xiaoyan was not afraid of them, but now before the finals, there is no need to fight to the death. The third floor. Although it's dangerous, it's a good place. They wouldn't have thought of it, Mu Feng said with a grin. At this time, Mu Feng could be regarded as a friend of Xiaoyan, so he simply hung with Xiaoyan. It's not too late, let's go now. There are almost quite powerful auras coming here, it's too late to have a conflict with them. Xiaoyan also saw that the two had no objection, and said, let's go. The three of them looked at each other one after another, their speed increased to the extreme, and they headed towards the third floor of the infernal corpse forest. Outside the Yin corpse forest, inside a pavilion. Ha ha ha, this kid didn't disappoint me. Wu Zhang also laughed. Tisk tisk, this kid is beyond my expectations. Hu Du also said depressedly. Ha ha ha, I told you a long time ago that the vision must be long-term. Wu Zhang continued. Okay, I know, are you bothered? Hu Du also rolled his eyes and said. Why did Mu Yingying go to the third floor? Keep an eye on it. If something happens, we will take action directly. This is a good seedling. Wu Zhang also said vigilantly. This Mu Yingying's origin is also quite mysterious. Do you want to investigate it? Hu Du saw with a roll of white paper, and found that the information about Mu Yingying on it was also pitiful. Don't use it for the time being, lest there will be more troubles for no reason. Yeah. After the two of them finished speaking, they were looking at the many crystal in front of them. After all, to prevent these people from having an accident, it's better to do it yourself. Damn it. Sunai's points were also taken away by them. Looking at the light characters of Yura and Mu Feng in the sky to improve their ranking and points, Xu Huaniao also shouted angrily. They have gone through such a big battle, and they must have just won Sunai by luck. Their bodies are also extremely burdened, and their doqi is running out. They should not go far yet. Let's chase, said the figure beside Xu Huaniao. Waste. Don't you know by this time? This Xiaoyan was a fluke once, can it be luck the second time? You idiots. Xu Huaniao said angrily, how could his father send so many wastes to follow him? Hihi, I wonder who is angry here. It turns out to be Xu Huaniao. You're still the same, you like to get angry like this. A kind voice also appeared. Xu Huantiao looked up, and a fat man with a rather bloated figure also appeared in front of several people. Damn it. It's actually Luo Guang. Xu Huo's expression became solemn. How is it possible? It's actually the third-ranked King Kong is not bad. Luo Guangpang. Xu Huaniao's entourage was also. Chapter 219, the third floor of the infernal forest. King Kong is not bad. Luo Guangpang, what are you doing? Xu Huaniao said solemnly. In front of this King Kong is not bad. Luo Guangpang's title has spread far and wide in this trial. The third place in the points plundering competition, Luo Guang, is known to have the title of King Kong is not bad. Luo Guangfa, even if Xu Huaniao is very difficult to deal with this Luo Guang, the title of this Luo Guang should not be called for nothing. Although I don't know what kind of exercises Luo Guang is practicing, but when he fights, his body is covered with iron walls. Even Xu Huaniao, who is as strong as the peak 4-star Dode, looks ugly. It should be that Luo Guang's defensive power is amazing, even he is helpless. Hihi, I'm not looking for you, I'm just looking for this kid named Xiaoyan. The fat man named Luo Guang also said with a smile. Xu Huaniao was relieved when he heard the words, and then he said, which Xiaoyan seems to have found that we have already escaped from here. Since this is the case, let's see you in the finals. In the last 15 days, I don't believe he won't come out. It's just that Xu Huo Bird didn't seem to notice that the location where Luo Guang disappeared was the entrance to the second floor of the Yin Corpse Forest. Master, what should we do now? Xu Huaniao's entourage asked. Chase, I want to see how powerful this Xiaoyan is. After Xu Huaniao finished speaking, he was the first to head towards the place where Xiaoyan escaped. Xiaoyan and the other three kept leaving the corpse forest at a high speed. After all, Luo Guang and Chu Huaniao were much stronger than Sunai. Now that they had enough points, it was time to avoid the limelight and wait until the end. The finals are coming out. The three came to a dark place, and saw a dark passage also appearing in front of the three. Careful. The huge two characters are placed in a prominent position. This. Mu Feng also stared at the two prominent words directly above the dark passage, and then thought for a moment. It's all right. Xiaoyan put a hand on Mu Feng's shoulder as he spoke, and then an extremely gentle flame energy spread throughout Mu Feng's body, making Mu Feng feel indescribably comfortable. Go. Then Xiaoyan and the three looked at each other and disappeared on the second floor of the Infernal Corpse Forest, heading towards the third floor of the Infernal Corpse Forest. Outside the Corpse Forest. Report. Someone has entered the third floor of the Infernal Corpse Forest. A young man said respectfully to Wu Zhang. Who is that? Wu Zhang also asked softly. It's a man with a heavy ruler on his back, with a man and a woman beside him, the young man said. Understood, let's go, you have done a good job, make persistent efforts. Wu Zhang also said. Yes. The encouraged young man also seemed to have been beaten with blood, and disappeared into the corpse forest to observe the movements of the participants. The ghost chi here is so heavy. As soon as he left the dark passage, a rush of ghost chi came directly to his face, and then Mu Feng said with a solemn expression. As a person who has dealt with ghosts all year round, Mu Feng is familiar with ghosts, so the more dignified the breath represents, the stronger the ghosts are. Mu Feng, what's the matter with you? Yuero also noticed that Mu Feng was using some strange handprints, and then said, It's all right, I'll put a spell on you, which can greatly reduce the erosion of these ghosts. Mu Feng also began to mutter when he finished speaking. After reciting the incantation in his mouth, he gestured some strange movements in his hand. At the same time, 3 gray rays of light flew towards Xiaoyan, Yuero, and Mu Feng. As soon as the gray light touched the body, it turned into an invisible force, constantly blocking the erosion of ghost energy. This power is so strange. Xiaoyan couldn't help but praise. Although Xiaoyan possessed a huge flame protection body, it did not mean that Yuero and the others possessed it. On the third floor of the Infernal Corpse Forest, where the concentration of ghost chi had increased significantly, they clearly felt that the use of vindictive chi had been suppressed to varying degrees. However, under the protection of Mu Feng's gray light, this strange suppression also disappeared without a trace. Obviously, Mu Feng has a good way of dealing with this ghost. Everyone, be careful, the ghosts on the third floor of the corpse forest are also extremely powerful. Mu Feng also said coldly. The three looked at each other and moved forward slowly. Monster, are you sure it's here? Yuquan Ghost also stared at a well in front of him, looked down deeply and asked in doubt. Although it is known that the other half of the twin ghost emperor is sealed in the third floor of the corpse forest, the exact location is not quite sure. That's right, it's here according to my sensibility. Let's go down. The ghost spirit also said. After he finished speaking, he jumped into the well without waiting for the people outside to agree. Let's go too, Hong Yi said, and then followed in. Although Hong Yi is reluctant in every possible way, but for a certain person, he still has to be a tiger. Go. After Yuquan finished speaking, it turned into a beam of light and streaks into the well. The ghost of the secluded spring, and the red leaf, the master of the red mountain and red valley, the 3 strong men also entered a well, leaving a dry red valley person and ghosts waiting on the well. Hehe, it's interesting now. A familiar figure also said from outside the well, if you look closely, you will find that the figure talking is actually Muller. Let's go, let me meet the powerhouses of the so-called point-grabbing competition. Muller also smiled strangely, and his aura was the same as that of a ghost. Humph. Impossible, the 2 adults, Yu Mei and Yuquan, have gone down. It's not your decision here. A figure with a terrifying ghostly aura also stood up and said. You still can't do it, the 2 adults are not here, naturally I have the final say here. Mueller also said angrily, obviously the ghost who caused trouble was obviously dissatisfied with Muller. That's right, even a mere 4-star Dode wants to lead us, and he doesn't spit and look in the mirror. The people from Hunggu also stepped forward. Although they don't know why their Valley Master brought them here, but they have absolute trust in the Valley Master, so they didn't ask any more questions. but it is obvious that these people in Red Valley do not know that the ghosts in the ghost world are in front of them, otherwise now. Fight early. The strength of the contestants in the other people's point plundering competition is also extremely strong. If you want them to be the scapegoats, then this Muller is looking for the wrong person. Damn, you're actually doing it behind my back, and I'll have a chance to see you in the future if I don't kill you. Muller also said in his heart with anger, and then secretly wrote down a few people who were in his early years, and he must give them some color afterward. Look. After speaking, he calmed down, and then a trace of ghostly energy continued to emerge from the well, and then calmed down again. Long Yi is the biggest treasure in the entire Infernal Corpse Forest that you mentioned is on the 3rd floor of the Infernal Corpse Forest. Xiaoyan also slowly communicated with the ruler above the ancient ruler of eternal. Chapter 220, Mystery Man. Since the fire of the root of Longji, the spirit of the ruler of the eternal fire, was swallowed up by Xiaoyan, Long Yi also knew that if he wanted to see the sun again in the future, then he had to rely on Xiaoyan. After all, he is now all betting on Xiaoyan. The power of the source was swallowed up, and the dragon's soul lost the chance to escape, so he could only stay within the ancient ruler of eternal fire. That's right. I have lived in this corpse forest for thousands of years, but I am familiar with it. There is one of the biggest treasures in the corpse forest, and it exists on the 3rd floor of the corpse forest, and I can guarantee that this treasure cannot even be touched by the overlord of the corpse forest, you knew serious. Long Yi also said proudly. Where is it? Xiaoyan also said inexplicably. Follow me. After Long Yi finished speaking, an extremely small force also overflowed along the ancient ruler of the eternal fire, and then went to a place. Go this way. Xiaoyan also followed quickly and said to the two behind him, let's go away first, it's not good to attract others' attention here. Yuquan and Hong Yi's voices came from the well in the same way, and they obviously heard the quarrel outside. Yes. A group of people outside the well also disappeared without a trace, leaving only Muller alone. Damn soul race. What the heck are you doing? Muller said in a mood. Apparently even he didn't know why he came to the 3rd floor of this terrifying infernal forest. The thinking was fruitless, and Muller's figure was also hidden. Before he knew it, a day had passed, but Xiaoyan and the others also noticed that the ghost energy around them had clearly grown stronger. We have entered the core area of the 3rd floor of the infernal corpse forest. Everyone be careful. Xiaoyan also looked around vigilantly and said, Euro. Mu Feng. After patrolling around, Xiaoyan also looked behind him and found that the two had disappeared. Hey, don't worry, these are just some protection techniques on the 3rd floor of the infernal corpse forest, they're just some tricks. It will disperse in a while. And Yura and Mu Feng are also in it, but there is no danger. They will recover after passing through here. Long Yi, who was on the ancient ruler, also noticed Xiaoyan's change, and then went out. Dd there are 2 huge breaths on the 3rd floor of this corpse forest. The Golden Dragon King muttered in Xiaoyan's body, but it was fleeting, and it was quiet again, apparently slowly refining the secret realm. Dragon Qi, thereby restoring some of his strength. Long Yi, why did we go to the east? Xiaoyan also found that the infernal corpse forest was only on the east and west sides, which was quite strange. The treasure I'm talking about exists in the easternmost part. As for the west part, it is the overlord of the infernal corpse forest, where the silver moon heavenly wolf is located. This is still the dividing line between the things on the 3rd floor of the infernal corpse forest. I hope I won't meet him. Long Yi said weakly. Hearing this, Xiaoyan stopped at a small hole around him. After all, the ghost energy around him was weak and there was almost no trace of ghosts. According to Long Yi, the passage here contains passages, which used to be the place where the silver moon lived, but now the silver moon has already occupied the west, so this cave is also abandoned. Compared with other places full of ghosts, this place is extraordinarily strange. Xiaoyan walked in slowly, while carefully observing the place. This is a small cave, only a few feet, and there is nothing in it, but the strange thing is that this cave is actually bright, which is very strange. Xiaoyan probed carefully for a long time, but he didn't understand why there was light here. It was clearly the bottom of the cave, so it should be impossible for moonlight to appear. Suddenly Xiaoyan's body turned around, and the breath all over his body also increased to the limit, and then he snorted coldly, "Who is it? Come out." At the same time, the milky white flame on Xiaoyan's body flourishing, and a terrifying flame instantly illuminated the entire cave. At the same time, Xiaoyan was also holding the ancient ruler tightly in his hand, because he felt an extremely terrifying force from the moment he entered the cave. On the ancient ruler, Long Yi also looked around vigilantly, and then a huge force on the ancient ruler was slowly rotating, a layer of crimson light, from the ancient ruler. The top fell off, and Xiaoyan was firmly protected inside. If you look closely, there is no one. But a voice came from the void in the cave. "A rare young man, you have quite a few secrets in your body, but I didn't expect you to dare to come here. It's very rare. Do you know where this place is?" When Xiaoyan heard the words, he was also shocked. This voice contained extremely terrifying power, and then the huge soul power dispersed in an instant, constantly changing positions and exploring everything around him. Xiaoyan also said, "Who are you? Why don't you show up? You can be sneaky and have the demeanor of a strong man. And where is this place? Isn't this the third floor of the infernal corpse forest? Why can't I come?" In the void, there was a sudden laugh in the voice. "Young man, I don't have any malicious intentions. I'm just bored and lonely here. I want to find someone to chat with. Would you like to chat with me? As for this place, it is the two most mysterious places in the corpse forest. This infernal corpse forest is divided into 3 floors. Most people don't know the entrance to the 3rd floor, so they can't enter. As for the cave where you are now, there are extremely tyrannical restrictions and isolation. People who don't know it can't find that restriction, and they can't get in at all. So you can come in. I'm a little bored. If you're willing to chat with me, I'll show up to see you. If you don't, just leave. It's just so many years, it's really lonely." At this time, Xiaoyan's soul force had already captured the position of the voice, but this result surprised Xiaoyan. Because what he found out was that the sound was not in this space, but in another space, and his voice was just transmitted in a special way. The strength of this person is very rare. This is something Xiaoyan has never encountered before. Xiaoyan also said softly, "Since you are lonely, please come out. I also have a lot of things that I don't understand, and I want to ask you for advice. As long as you are not malicious, I will not take the initiative to attack others." The voice laughed and said, "All right, it's rare that after so many years, there will be human beings here. It can be considered a fate. I will see you. I hope nothing unpleasant will happen between us, and I hope my appearance won't scare you." As soon as these words came out, Xiaoyan was about to speak when he suddenly felt the aura around the cave suddenly fluctuate. A flashing crack appeared out of nowhere in the cave, and a figure shining with silver light came out of the crack in an instant, quietly appeared a few feet away from Xiaoyan, and looked at Xiaoyan with a smile. Xiaoyan was startled. Such an instant transfer, appearing here out of thin air from another dimension, without profound strength. It is absolutely impossible. Who is this person and why he has such profound strength is really mysterious. This breath, could it be him? The ruler Longjian, the ancient ruler of eternal fire, was also staring at the man in front.
Hi. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get updated on my latest video. Thank you for watching.